It's not the market.
Mm.
Okay, because most agents think, okay, well, the market's soft and there's no business out there, so that's why agents are failing. No.
And when the activity chooses us, it's typically a very inefficient activity. The consumer doesn't hire competence, the consumer hires confidence.
So having some sort of nurture program, some follow-up system, instead of just kind of winging it every single time and having it grind every single day for now business. That's a big deal for longevity in this business.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Level Up Podcast with myself, Greg Harrelson. This is where I focus on taking you from agent to entrepreneur. As you know, I have a passion for developing agents. And on today's episode, I'm going to share another quick strategy on how you can increase your production. I'm going to be real, so you be ready. Let's level up. Hey everybody, it's Greg Harrelson here with my partner Abe Safa, and we're going to talk about agents and what it is, what's causing agents to fail at such a rapid pace in our industry. So it's going to be a great conversation. There's no doubt about it. Again, I'm Greg Harrelson. This is Abe Safa. We come in to you from the Real Estate Sales Solutions and Level Up podcast. So Abe, thanks for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure, Greg. Looking forward to this, as always.
Well, so why are real estate agents failing? I know we've had these dialogues before, and we've pondered this, and we ask ourselves to make sure we don't fall in these traps. As well as when we build teams, we want to make sure that we give agents the best chance to succeed. I'm going to just kind of kick it off, and something that I actually just wrote it down. One reason I believe that agents fail is they make it complicated. They overcomplicate the situation, the business. And I think psychologically, one of the reasons, this is just my opinion, one of the reasons I believe that that is the case is we almost have this guilty complex, this guilt that we have to make it very complicated so we can overcome so much to justify the large compensation that we earn. We earn in many cases $10,000 to sell somebody's property or to help somebody purchase a property. And I think sometimes we overcomplicate it to justify the pay that we get, when the reality is so much of what we do is unnecessary. And I wrote down, and I know this because I bring a lot of new agents into the business, right? That they don't have the skills yet. They don't really even have experience or a lot of knowledge, and in many cases don't even have sales experience. But all they do is they just talk to people, they ask for an appointment, and they go out and present to them. Now they get better and better after they do this more, but they talk to people and ask for the appointment. Next thing you know, they're doing 30 transactions in their first year. They are by far not failing. And then I see other people come into the business or in the business right now, and they do so much more. They have like these great marketing plans and this and that. And I'm still using a yellow notepad. I'm just talking to people, asking for an appointment, going on with the yellow notepad, crushing it. And these other people are kicking my butt in all the things that they have and the enhancements, but they're lagging in talking to people and asking for appointments. So if I was to really just sum it up for the one answer, but we'll probably have more than one. Why do people fail? We overcomplicate the process. Have you observed that? What are your thoughts on that?
100%. As soon as you said we overcomplicate it, I knew where you were going with this, Greg. And the first thing that popped to my mind was, can you imagine going to a doctor's office and the doctor is thinking, instead of coming in for just 5 minutes and checking you out, having to feel like he needs to justify his fee and has to spend an hour or 2 hours in there just talking to you about stuff that doesn't even matter to your illness or to your ailment or whatever it is. It's kind of like what we do.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned you coming in with a yellow pen, and these agents have all these other things that aren't really necessary. So yeah, we definitely tend to complicate it because we feel like we have to do more.
Yeah.
As opposed to, like, sometimes just bringing your knowledge, your experience, and your ability to be able to keep the transaction on track is plenty, right? Controlling the emotions. Sometimes it's that's what's needed, not these
Mm,
fancy different tools that we want to bring just to kind of justify our paycheck. Um,
yeah. Yeah, you
but
bring up the doctor real quick, and there's that old kind of scenario where, doctor, you go into the doctor, and you got this issue, and you think it's more than a migraine. You think like maybe you got some real problems, right? And your head's hurting and whatnot, and the doctor just gives you Tylenol 3, sends you out the office with a $1,200 doctor bill, and you're like, man, $1,200. All they did was tell me to take Tylenol 3.
right.
And we make that mistake sometimes, but the reality is no. You paid the doctor $1,200 to eliminate the other 1,000 drugs and procedures that they could have told you to do that wouldn't have worked. They went through this process of eliminating 1,000 other alternatives to narrow it down to the one thing. That's what you paid the doctors paid for, the years of experience that they have to get to a point to say something so simple. And they should be honored, they should be proud and feel no guilt by charging that amount of money for what they said. It's just we have to see there's way more to it. And I think when you're saying bring in your experience, bring in your knowledge is good enough.
Mhm.
That's all we really need. But we just complicate it. What other thoughts do you have?
Yes, I made a list of 250 things. No, I'm just kidding.
But like
The
I said, this could be a 4-hour conversation if we're going to be talking
it
about.
could be all day. It could be all
Yeah.
day. I do want to point out one thing though before we start rattling things out. I want to point out why what it's not, why agents don't fail.
Okay.
Okay. And it's not the market.
Mm.
Okay. Because most agents think, okay, well, the market's soft and there's no business out there. So that's why agents are failing. No, that's so not true. Well, we know hundreds of agents around the country that are having their best year ever in this soft market with only 4 million transactions nationwide, right? So it's not the market and it's not the leads. So let's get those two things out of the way.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
I agree.
So the first thing I wanted to point out was a lot of agents treat this as if it's a hobby.
Mm.
Like they don't treat it like it's a business. So there's not a whole lot of thought and consideration that goes into, okay, what do I want this to look like? What's my long-term goals with this? What's my objective? What am I doing on a day-to-day basis? What's my schedule look like? So I think that's a start. It's like there's not a whole lot of training in the industry that says, hey, you're about to go into business on your own, even though you're part of a brokerage, right? It's your own business in most cases, your own LLC, and like there's no plan. Like they just show up. So I think that's the first thing is like, look, you've got to really think about this and really treat it as if this is a business, which it is. I think
Yes.
it starts there.
Yeah, we kind of like we I wrote down we think like agents when we should be thinking like entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And so when we're in the mindset of thinking like agents, we just kind of follow the crowd and look at what other agents are doing, which is not really a good idea because the average per person production is so low. So you got to be careful at who you're watching, right? But if we think of it ourselves as like entrepreneurs, then we have this responsibility to ourselves to build something. And instead of just like selling real estate, we should be building a real estate business, right? Even though most people are going to build it under a brokerage or under a team, which is under a brokerage. In any case, it's always under a brokerage, but you can still build something for yourself. And yeah, they're just not treating it like a business. They're treating it like a hobby. And so, what does that mean? Like, if somebody, what does it mean? Like, if somebody's treating it like a hobby, what are some of the signs that you can think of that tells you that that's kind of like a hobby?
Yeah, I mean, a couple things. Lack of structure in their schedules, like
Mm,
no time blocking. Like one day they show up at 8 a.m., next day they show up at 11. One day they're talking to buyers, next day they're talking to sellers, right? There's just no plan whatsoever. You ask them if they have a plan to build a database for future business, and most agents don't have that,
yes.
right? So there's just not a whole lot of thought or business planning behind what they do.
Yeah. So inconsistency,
Right.
right? And if you're inconsistent, then a lot of times we end up choosing the activity chooses us versus us choosing the activity. And when the activity chooses us, it's typically a very inefficient activity. It's usually
That
putting out a fire or having to go do this or do that. Like the productive activities never choose us. It's the non-productive activities that choose us. So you got to either choose the activities or they're going to choose you, productive versus non-productive.
Yeah, the other day I was at the doctor's office, Greg, and it was kind of funny. I was talking to a couple that were there, and he asked me what I do, and I said I'm in real estate. He goes, "Oh man, you guys work hard. You never take any time off, do you?" I was like, "Man, that's like so that's the impression of agents out there is that we have to work 24/7."
Yeah.
But that goes back to what you were saying. There's no structure there. It's kind of like whack a mole. We're just reacting. We're putting out fires. We're running and doing this. There's no thought process behind and no plan behind our actions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just share one that's a simple one. I think it's such an obvious one. We don't talk to the amount of people that's required to talk to build the business that we desire. I remember this has been 25 years ago. I remember there was a rule of thumb, and quite frankly, the rule of thumb is probably not too far off. I just haven't coached it for years and haven't even thought about it until just now. And that is the number of people you talk to daily will equal the number of deals you do yearly. Person who wants to do 25 deals a year needs to talk to 25 contacts per day for 220 days. It was always a formula. That was the rule of thumb in our industry. In other words, there's a direct correlation between the number of people you're talking to and the number of deals. And there's a correlation between how many work days are there in a year that you need to be talking to people. We kind of use 220 as a baseline because that would be like a banker's schedule or a government employee's schedule, 220 work days, counting a few weeks off of vacation, your weekends off, etc. So you've got the number of contacts you make daily should equal or will likely equal the number of transactions you do annually over 220 days. And people just don't understand that rule. And so people might make 5 contacts today, 2 contacts tomorrow, no contacts the rest of the week. And over 220 days, they might end up talking to maybe on average 3 people per day. And they're wondering why they're only doing anywhere from 3 to 5 deals, maybe 3 to 7 deals. Well, 3 deals are from the people that they talk to, and the other 5 to 7 deals are from past clients and not past clients, but centers of influence and referrals. So the key is if somebody wants to do 15 transactions, 20 transactions, it's going to require talking to more people on a daily basis. I mean, we can never get away from that conversation.
That's a staple. Yeah, no matter what. I mean, because I had that on my list as well. Like, okay, they don't generate, not
Yeah.
like they don't look at this as a business where I have to go in and generate leads because that's where my business comes from, right? So yeah, it is as simple as just talking to more people on a regular basis if you want to do more business.
Mhm.
Another thing I wanted to point out, it kind of piggybacks off of the number of people to talk to, is like agents don't master the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Like it's really
You
mind
must have saw
boggling.
my list. You must have saw my list.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure you had that on your list somewhere. They don't like. What are they good at? Like what are you mastering? Are you mastering the conversations? Are you mastering the market knowledge? There's not a whole lot of thought and emphasis in like being the best in the business or trying to be one of the best in the business. There's just not desire. And again, of course, there's people out there that are the opposite of that. But I'm just talking about in general terms. If you would do a consensus of the majority of agents, they're not mastering the
Yeah.
fundamental things: objection handling, conversations, setting appointments, asking for the listing, asking for the appointment, like simple things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I basically put down practice. And it's the same thing that you're saying. I put practice skills. You think about, I'm watching some football right now, NFL football, and a little bit of college football. And I just reflect on these guys that everyone on the field to make it to where they've made it has put so much time into practicing. We could practice in this industry, we could practice 1/10 of the time that they practiced and make way more money. Now, maybe not your NFL stars who's making 100 million a year or whatever, but that might be a little bit different. But you just got to understand it takes 1/10 to master something compared to what those athletes are doing out there on the field. And so I'm actually doing a coaching call today. My Agent Success Academy coaching call today is going to be what I do to take 15 listings a month. Like every single month. This is all you have to do to take 15 listings. And one of the things that I'm going to talk about is you've got to master the listing presentation. You've got to know the listing presentation like you know anything else that you've mastered. You just got to like you just focus on that one thing. And then if you're talking to people and asking for the appointment and you know the listing presentation, you can take as many listings as you want. It's just going to be throttled based on how many people you talk to. So to me, it's on the listing side, why people fail is they wing the listing presentation. And, I've said so many times that the consumer doesn't hire competence, the consumer hires confidence. And that means that when you present, you have to present with high levels of confidence. And how do you get the confidence? Through practicing over and over again. So for those of you that want to learn how to take listings at a higher level than what you probably would ever dream, then check out Agent Success Academy. You've got to check that out for sure. That's going to be what I'm coaching on today. All right. Any more? You have one last one?
Yeah, one last one I'll throw in is there's not a follow up plan or
Mm,
system or nurture, right? So yes, even the ones that are out there, they're working hard and making the contacts and talking to people. Okay, great. The ones that aren't ready right now, what are you doing with those people?
mhm,
So the agents that are excelling and surviving and doing really well in the business, they take those. You call it monetizing the notes.
mhm,
Taking all those people that are saying no and doing something with them, so you can get some future business with them. So having
mhm.
some sort of nurture program, some follow up system, instead of just kind of winging it every single time and having to grind every single day for now business. So I think that's a big deal for longevity in this business.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I would just never remember. Like the chances that we're going to remember to call the people when we need to call them is unlikely. The chances we're going to email them at the appropriate time is unlikely. So nurturing is, and I've been saying this by the way on the last couple of conversations just had with the company that on their side, you know, let me tell you what nurturing is not. This is a major flaw in our industry. Nurturing is not setting them up on a save search and then making sure they get notified when there's a property alert, a new property hit the market. That's not nurturing. That might be notifying. It is not nurturing. I can promise you that. Most agents, Abe, I believe, especially those working on the buyer side, they actually think that property alerts is a sufficient nurturing plan. No, that doesn't even fall in the category of nurturing. Nurturing would be adding value through emails and follow ups and text and whatnot, adding value. Everybody's got people signed up on property alerts. So we're talking about nurturing where there's a kind of orchestrated plan that when you get off the phone, you tag them in your CRM a certain way, that kicks off a workflow. And we've got the proper frequency and the proper messaging that consistently is delivered to them. And then it also alerts you and reminds you, hey, you need to reach out to these people now. That's what nurturing is. It's again, it may sound complicated. It's not complicated at any level. This is like basic stuff. If you're an entrepreneur, you would build your business like this, and all of a sudden you'd be converting way more business. There's no question about it.
Spot on, man.
All right. All
Yeah.
right. Well, hey, everybody. Hey, look, we're coming at you from the Level Up podcast. So please subscribe. I would love, and we're live on YouTube. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to the Level Up podcast. We'd love to, boost our subscriptions and hope that, more of you get notifications when we're dropping content like this, which is roughly about once a week. And then please look, Abe and I are interested in helping you grow your business. This is the time to get involved into Agent Success Academy. Check out Agent Success Academy and just consider giving us a shot. You join our coaching, there's no contract. You can like join for a month. It's $2.99 a month. You can join. If you don't like it, you can cancel it. In the meantime, for $299 one month, you got over 100 videos that you can watch. Mastering the listing presentation, price reductions, FISBOs, expires. You want to learn how to take 10 plus, 15 plus listings per month? Maybe you only care a fifth, maybe 5 a month is good enough for you. Well, you want to learn how to do that? Join Agent Success Academy. If you actually canceled in 1 month, but consumed one coaching call every day for the next month, I promise you, it would return you thousands and thousands of dollars. Just check me out. And if you get in and you don't like it, blast me all over social media and tell me how terrible it is. I'd be cool with that. I'd take the feedback. All right, Abe. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week.
Enjoyed it, Greg. See you guys.
All right. Bye bye.